Week with some more trumpet practice streaming. And sorry I wasn't here last week. I can't remember even what happened last week, but here we are this week. And the topic today is summer basics. Basics might be the wrong word, but that's what we're going to call it. And we mean by basics anything that's, not literature, although literature can be part of your summer program as well, but we want to work on a variety of things that help us to be a better trumpet player, and the summer is a great time to do that because we don't have ensembles to practice in. We aren't about to give a recital usually, right? We're not preparing a whole bunch of literature for performance. We're not, otherwise embroiled in schoolwork. And so we have time usually, at least if you're a student, usually the summer is your time. And a lot of us take that time off. And mental health professionals will tell you, yes, you absolutely should take time off. That's true in terms of mental load, yes. But physically speaking, if you take time off the trumpet, you're going to come back wishing you hadn't. And then that's going to be more of a emotional strain on you. So it's important to at least maintain your skills over the summer. And it's actually a really good time to what we call hedgehog, which is just, you put your head down. It really should be groundhog, but where you put your head down and you just go. And by the time you just feel like you're going and going and going and you don't know where you are. And then you put your head up and you look around and say, oh, wow, I made it this far. I can't believe it. As opposed to trying to sort of chart your way through all the time. If you know what direction you're going, which you should by the end of a semester, right? If you've been taking lessons, you should know exactly the direction you need to go because your teacher is telling you that. And it might be a bunch of different things that you're trying to grow at the same time, but they're all kind of leading in one direction. That is hopefully better trumpet playing for you, right? So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to do a warm-up that gets very quickly into multiple trumpets and a lot of scales. We're going to play everything by ear. This would be a great one for you to play along with if you want to. And of course, I started the stream without actually being 100% ready to play the string, to do it. So I've got to run in the other room and get a couple of mouthpieces. I do have the chat up, though, and it looks like somebody's watching. So hello, whoever you are. Say hello in the chat. And I'm going to ask a lot of questions. The more people are here, the easier that will be. But I'm going to ask a lot of questions today. And I just want to know what's on your list to work on this summer. And then maybe we can do something about that. Okay? So I'll be right back, and we'll get to work. Sorry. Okay. So, I've been thinking a lot about the idea of basically loud and soft playing. I'm a loud warm up kind of guy, and so when I warm up, I tend to. My goal is to use a lot of air, and a lot of people will agree with that in concept. But then a lot of people warm up very softly too, or instead, and I've been thinking a lot about that. Why do they do that? And is that a good thing to do, or do I disagree with that? Or, what's the perspective there? And I think it depends on what you're trying to build. And I say this a lot, and I will continue to say it. It's if you if you are worried about your response, right, your ability to make the note start, and maybe your soft playing in general, or maybe it's your very high playing or something like that that you feel is connected to the way you set up your embouchure, then you might want to do some things that are very soft, right? There's a very good a book called Special Studies by John Daniel that I highly recommend. I didn't understand it for a long time. Even after he explained it, it was so far from anything that I had experienced, which makes it a really good book, I think. Not just that, but that it's a good book that's also extremely different than a lot of what we tend to study makes that valuable, because then you're going to find a new way to do stuff, or maybe the first time that you've ever found a way to do something that you couldn't do before or couldn't work on before. So that book has a lot of different things in it, but one of my favorite things about it is that it spends a lot of time basically in the sort of subtone, very soft register. And we'll do some of it today, but you might similarly use a cutout, right? This is my cutout. You can see right through it. It's just a rim, and normally I wouldn't start on it, but we can find out what's going to come out. So maybe what I'm going to try to do today, because this is on my list of stuff, is I want to do sort of contrast. I want to go from very loud or very soft to the other, right? And sorry, I'm resizing my OBS so that I can see the chat if anybody does show up and say something, so that I can see what they're doing. So, but I also want to see my audio because I have a little bit of a different setup today. And so if I just breathe and blow, we can even practice the breathing first. Some are fundamentals, right? So we want to make sure we really build everything perfectly, and we finally have time to do that. Oh, look, I have a student on already, and his real name is in the chat. Oh my goodness. Yeah, soft playing, loud playing, and articulation are what Michael is working on. And dig into some Clark Arbin type things. Well, you'll be happy to know that that is one of the ways in which we might work on our scales. I got sort of obsessed, and we'll get to this, but since you're here now, I got sort of obsessed with this idea of, what makes it possible to sight read really easily? What makes you really familiar with a key? Why are some people really good in certain keys and other people are not, even though they both can play the scales, right? The up and down major scale or minor scale or whatever it is. And I thought, well, it's probably because we don't really explore it enough, right? We just go up and down the scale, and that's hard enough for some people. If you can't do that, work on it, right? That's the first step. And maybe the first step is actually not even that, but just learning any major scale without having to look at the page to play it. I wholeheartedly believe in playing 100% by ear, right? So in other words, if I see something on the page, I might say, oh, I see that that's an F and then an E and then an F and then an A and G, F, E, D, C. There's a Conconi here, right? But I don't want to see that as first valve 1 and 2. I don't want to think about it that way. I also don't even want to necessarily think of it, I think the contour of the line is all right, but I don't want to think of it as fingerings, and I don't want to think of it as up and down too much. I want to think of it as a sound that goes da 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 da, and that might be da 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 da. That's one way to play that, or it's da 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 da. That's up a step, but it might not sound up a step if I play it on a trumpet that's a step lower, right? So that's really what I want to explore, is how do we play that way all the time so that we're not worried. And Michael, you and I just played a gig where I played everything on E flat trumpet even though it was written for C, and that was possible because I didn't try to transpose each note. Now it caught up with me because there was a page missing from my packet, and so I couldn't practice that page, and because I couldn't practice that page, I didn't have the sounds in my ear yet, and then it went into a really terrible key. It went into G sharp major. Yes, right, which isn't real, right? That's That's 9 sharps, I think. No, sorry, 8 sharps. Seven, all 7 sharps plus one more double sharp, and so that's really hard to think in. So it took me maybe 2 or 3 playthroughs before I said, why am I trying to transpose this by sight? I should be just hearing the pitches. And so of course I had to then sit down and figure out what it sounded like quickly. But that was after 2 or 3 times through, that wasn't that hard. So anyway, that's what we want to do. But first we want to get some fundamentals going. And here we are, 20 minutes into the stream. I haven't played a note. So let's start with so like we were saying, Michael, very soft and very loud playing, and the very soft might be setting up some of the stuff that we need just to get good response, just to make sure that we're stable here and that we're letting things out. But if we're too obsessed with that, then we don't really firm up our embouchure sometimes enough, and that's what the loud playing does for us. Is if I blow a lot of air, then I have to really have what a lot of people will talk about, firm corners or down corners, flat chins sometimes they talk about, right? Sometimes people talk about these levator muscles coming up, which is very interesting. And you can understand it to a certain degree very in depth, but the point is you're going to have to exercise that. And really you don't want there to be a big difference between the very soft things you do and the very loud things you do. They need to be one thing. So if you do too much of one, then you're going to lose part of the other, and then you might have trouble in your playing based on that. So that's what we're really after. At least for me, that's what I need right now, because I've spent a lot of time when we were doing Brandenburg practice. I was spending a lot of time just really moving air, and the piccolo doesn't allow me to do that, but it kind of works because the piccolo is small. But I think I can make Brandenburg a lot easier. It's still coming up, by the way. I think I can make Brandenburg a lot easier if I work on my soft playing and then I try to merge that with my loud playing so that I'm using my air well, but I'm not just overblowing everything, right? So let's see what comes out. This is a good thing to do on cutout, is just to say, all right, I'm gonna stand up straight. I'm sort of out of frame. Sorry about that. I'm gonna stand up straight. I'm gonna bring the mouthpiece to me. All right, these are all things we learn way back that we forget, and then we end up doing bad things when we're playing too many gigs or not warming up every day or whatever. So I've been doing a lot of soft practice, but I shouldn't say a lot. I've been very busy, so I've been doing the bare minimum of about a half an hour to an hour of mostly soft playing the last 3 days. So I feel very out of shape. I feel weak. But I feel like I know how things go together, so that should help us. So let's see what comes out. I'm just going to breathe. Yeah, something should happen there. So you can hear we got sort of a shaky buzz, but we also didn't force it. We didn't use a lot of air. We didn't use a lot of anything, muscle, anything. See if we can clean that up. Well, it didn't want to start that time, but it had a little bit more meat to it. And right away you want to start feeling for, am I just weak somewhere? And for me, it's always this corner over here. It's like upper right. I have to really button that down and make sure it's doing some work. So I'm just trying to do a little bit of still pretty small airstream, soft playing, but I just want it to feel really natural to just get the buzz, right? Just get into that buzz. If you're doing this just with a rim instead of with the whole cutout, it's a little trickier to control the left, right, and I'm still not doing a great job of it. In fact, the whole point of this is that you can put it in a trumpet, so let's do that. Let's not be, we have everything here, we may as well use it, right? So I really desperately need to clean my horns again too. So you can hear instantly how much easier that is with pressure from the trumpet. And that's two reasons. One is that I can actually apply a lot more pressure evenly because I have this whole big trumpet to press into, but also that it's a more familiar vector, right? I'm even as much as I've done it, I'm not used to holding the mouthpiece with just two hands, but instead putting it on the whole horn and then pressing that into my face in a certain way. That's more familiar. So that's probably what I should be doing all the time, right? That's why they make these things. And if you haven't been convinced yet, that should be convincing enough. Buy some sort of cutout, right? It doesn't even have to be your rim exactly, just close. Close is good. And if you're going to go one way or another, I would go smaller actually. If let's say you play a 1.5 C and all you can find is a 5 C, that's totally fine. Get the 5. Well, it won't be a C, right? It'll be nothing. But if you can find a rim that's close-ish even. Now, I wouldn't go as small as maybe a 9 or a 10. That's going to be really different. But you'll still learn from that. It's harder to apply it if it's that big of a difference. If it's bigger, you tend to use more lip tension when you actually go to play the trumpet, and that can be a detriment. At first, it'll be great, but you'll pay for it in the long run. So let's just do a little more of this. Now you heard a little bit of a double buzz there. This is really good. We wanted to get that because that's an artifact of using too much lip tension and not really being strong enough to use the air more, or at least I'm not doing it, right? Let's see if I can do this with just by adding a little air to go up. Yeah, so just blowing a little harder and making sure that I'm supporting that, you didn't hear any double buzz. It just was the same buzz all the way up. If anything, a little more intense because I'm holding my lips in the same place, right? That's what we're looking for. And that's the way we unify these things. That's the way we get them to be one thing instead of, oh yeah, soft playing, oh yeah, loud playing. We have to find the balance between those two. If I don't do it with my air, then my lips take over and it's too much, and then I get tired or I can't do certain things. If I just do it with my air, then I'm overworking my lips, just keeping them in the same place, and then I can't do certain things. And either way, I run out of stamina for something. Either it's the response, and it's weird because it's kind of opposite. When I want to work on response, right, I'm not going to play loud, even though the loud stuff is what costs me response in the long run, right? Because we're pressing and blowing and we're getting swollen, and then eventually that just stops working because our chops can't keep withstanding those blows. Versus when I go the other way, when I'm really managing the sort of soft embouchure, well, now I'm holding everything a little too much. I'm not really doing anything in particular with my air. And so I'm liable to overhold and overstress my muscles just keeping things going, and then I'm going to end up getting tired, and I'll have endurance problems that sort of make more sense that way. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but hopefully we won't get there. you can actually blow, if you just kind of blow harder on the cutout, it'll keep going. And you press harder and blow harder, and you can get a really nice balance. Now, of course, that's different when you have a cup. The cup has a lot more back pressure, but that back pressure, if you put it to work, which means you have a tongue position that sort of counterbalances it, that's how you get the extreme high register. So anyway, that's good enough for cutout for now. I brought all my bigger mouthpieces too. Normally I would start on these, right? Same thing. I just want it to right into response, right? And I'm engaging all the muscles in order to get that to be consistent. A lot of people are relaxing to get that. They'll do I can't get it to work. It seems to work for them. And now as you go up, if I try bass trumpet, yeah, then it starts to work because that's closer to what I'm used to having vibrate. So maybe that's the difference. But watch, what happens is as soon as I go anywhere in the normal register, right about where I was, I can't, I have to tighten my face to try to get there. So starting from that super relaxed position doesn't really get me anywhere. It might feel good, and that might be fine. And again, if it works, then it works. Hey, Dad. But I don't find it as, this other method that we've been doing, right? Trying to find the response. And then building it so it's sort of like the, you know, here's it's the fly, right? Sort of this tiny sound at first, but then we're building that into something that's more muscular. I used to not be able to do the wrong fingerings, actually, I don't know if that was right or wrong, to be honest. Oh no, I don't have a regular mouthpiece. Well, we'll have to get one of those too. My bag is right here, just out of reach, of course. But yeah, when I did cutout, I used to not be able to do the wrong fingerings, and I thought, hey, that's a good idea, because then, you know, I'm kind of developing perfect pitch or you know, something relative pitch. So, and there's something to be said for that. If you, let's see if I was right. Well, I was way off, right? But anyway, if I always play this when I play low B, you know, sounds, and then I am connecting the ear to the fingers, you know, and so then what I see on the page becomes a sound, and then it goes into my hand, just autopilot, right? And that is a good thing, but if you're going to transpose, then that first step, a B can't mean a B anymore. And so then I thought, well, that's very interesting. What if I sort of decoupled the absolute sounds and fingerings from each other? So in other words, if I wanted to go, let's see, da 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 da, right? Well, on a B flat trumpet, that would be da 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 da, right? And on a D trumpet, oh boy, let's see, that would be da 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 da, A major, right? So I think that is also valuable. Now, it might help if you actually have your D trumpet in your hands or your B flat trumpet in your hands, because then there's something tactile that you're connecting. But anyway, I think it's useful both to do, and I mean, I think if you only have one trumpet, then what's the harm, right? In just an A's an A, right? And you feel that, and you hear that, and you feel it on your lips, and you feel it in your air, and you see it on the page. That's okay to start. But as soon as you start playing two different trumpets, a C trumpet and a B flat trumpet usually, then all of a sudden an A on the page can't be an A, it's a G now. And that's got to make sense to you. And so it's not a bad idea to practice sort of the relative sounds, I think. And this is what I've been on my soapbox about lately, that if I practice the right way and I do it all by ear instead of by sight, then I should start to develop an innate sense of the sounds that I might be faced with when I play a piece. And then I should be able to, I still need to do some sight reading. I still need to learn my etudes. I still need to learn pieces because then I'm putting that into practice, right? I have sounds in my ear and in my fingers that are all at the ready. And then I see sounds and I still have to figure out what this, I sort of have to decipher the page, right? You know, if I see, let's see, this one is da 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 da, oops, da 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 da, right? That's the sound. Now, it starts on a D written, da. So that was way off. But if I want to play it, let's say I sang a B. Now, I didn't look at the music. I looked at you guys, right? But that's because I memorized this sound, and then I just said, oh, great, I'm starting on B. That's no problem. So that's what I want to practice this summer. I want to get really, really good at that because I think that's a secret weapon. I think that it's not a secret at all, but I think that's how a lot of people sight read, but musically. I think that's how a lot of people play for a long time and they don't ever seem to get tired. I think it's because they are so familiar with the sounds and their fingers are so familiar with playing them that it's like everything's a walk in the park for them. So that's what we're going to try to build. And let's see, I'm going to mess with my audio a little bit to make the trumpet sound better, since we're going to play more trumpet now. So it'll have the usual problem for those of you who have watched before and maybe even asked me to change it or complained about it or whatever. There's no good way. I can turn this way up so that you can hear my voice. And, well, maybe I can mute it. Let's see. Yeah. No, that doesn't mute it, huh? Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Okay, well, we'll try. Maybe we'll try that. Sure. Anyway, we're not going to play C trumpet right now. We've just established a good response, and we sort of were using it already. But let's get our good old trusty B flat trumpet out. And if you're watching the stream and you play trumpet and you want to play along, this would be a good one to do because we're just going to play long tones, but we're going to do it loud. And what we've already established is how to get the response. So we're going to do a little bit of alarm clock tones and then louder long tones. Okay, so again, we're not looking at the contrast. We're looking at making one is causing it's getting our really great response, right? That's our right. I want to just feel where that is, but then I'm going to put a lot more air behind it, and it's not going to stay in the same place. It's going to change a little bit based on that air, and that's what I want to find. So we're going to do two soft, like almost poo attack alarm clock tones. Then we're gonna turn around bigger, and then long tone. Okay, so two soft ones, two louder ones, and then the long tone we're gonna do. And we're just gonna go through all of them because we need to, right? It won't take very long. It takes about 8 minutes to do the whole thing. So if you're here and you have questions or comments or thoughts, feel free to put them in the chat. And yeah, I'm going to turn off, I guess I'm going to turn off this mic, my lapel mic, so that it's all just pure trumpet sound. And that means I can keep my lapel mic up higher so that it's clear for you guys. Anyway, here we go. Starting on B natural for B flat trumpet. You might notice too, while I do this, not everyone is perfect, and not even the long tone necessarily. Sometimes it wavers a little bit, but I'm really trying to rely on my air for stability. And if I get too tight here, I can't get that stability. But if I get too loose, then I feel like I run out of air too fast. So we're really kind of calibrating how we're setting up here, but also trying to learn to rely on the air. Now G. You also might notice that I sometimes breathe out and then in real fast. That's because I'm trying not to stack breaths. When you stack breaths, it's you've got stale air in there, and then you breathe again on top of it, and you have to sort of feel like you're forcing it out, or you have to let out a bunch of air. I'm trying not to do that, but I also want to practice my turnaround. So not maybe the most efficient exercise for all those things, but if you're wondering, that's why. So here we go, F sharp. It's useful to keep sort of an internal tempo as well. I have a metronome here. I guess we could try it. I'm just kind of thinking about 60, 70, somewhere around there. I just kind of try to keep it in 4/4 or something familiar. That way I have a goal, right? Here we go, E flat. I think we skipped E, but that's all right. We'll keep going. D. Remember too that because these are loud, it's okay if we run out of air a little faster than normal. Uh, we're doing something a little different than normal. So, but it's good to try to go as long as you can. C now. For some reason, it's always easier for me. The shorter the horn gets, the longer I can play. And some of that makes sense and some of it doesn't. But anyway, B. If you have some shakiness, it's helpful to think about just expelling your air really evenly. Clarinet and flute and other non-brass players especially talk about breath control a lot, and it's especially important for them. For us, we get away with a lot because we can change the reed on the fly as well as the space as well as the amount of air, and so we get away with a lot of stuff we shouldn't. But really good breath control, I used to think it was nonsense. It's like, well, just blow a little harder than you need to and make sure it stays good, right? Well, yeah, sure. If you're really strong, you can do that. But when you either get less strong over time as you get older, or you just are out of shape maybe, or you never were in shape, whatever the reason, breath control really does contribute to your endurance, and you can really change the game for a piece that you're struggling to get through just by having better breath control. I tend not to teach it in pieces because then it sounds like there's an exact right answer that I want my student to find, and that I don't think is good pedagogy. But it is something that I think about when I'm working through a piece and I know that I can get through it, but I feel tired near the end. I think, well, I'm probably just blowing too hard the whole time. Let's see what sections I know that I can find a better balance. So anyway, I think we're on A now. I didn't make it as long. Sorry, I didn't make it as long, but I was more even. All right, A flat. That one was longer, right? And better. But I started a lot softer, so. And if you have a normal B-flat trumpet, you'd probably be done by now. We're going to do one more because we have a low F we can play, right? So, and if you don't know, then, well, if your third valve slide goes out that much, you can play a low F. Even if it's just close to that, you can probably play a low F. Here we go. I just sort of like to, try to do both fingerings there. But anyway, so that's a nice set of long tones. That took us about 10 minutes. I did talk a little bit in there, but by yourself it'll take you 8 minutes, and it's even a better endurance exercise for you because you just go to the next one. And we did that a few times, right? So I've seen there's a lot of people getting on and off, so it's good to have some viewers today. I didn't really expect any since I skipped last week. But maybe the people are hungry for more pedantic trumpet practice, and I am here to deliver that exact same thing. So anyway, so we've talked a little. Oh, I don't have any place for any of my trumpets. Well, that's all right. We've talked a little bit about this so far, but we want to unify the soft embouchure, the soft-made embouchure, right, that's close together, that responds really easily, that doesn't have a lot of over-tightness or over-strength or over-pressure to it. We want to unify that with the louder embouchure that has all of those things, right? It by nature has to have some pressure. By nature, it has to have some more strength, right? And I don't know that it needs tightness, but you might feel a sensation of tightness because of the muscle use, right? So we want those things to not feel separated. And so there's a lot of ways to do this. There's a lot of books. Maybe let's get some books out while we're standing or sitting here. One of them that works really well for me is the Schlossberg book, right? The Schlossberg book is great because it does a lot of things without telling you why or how. It just says do, which that's not great to me necessarily, but a lot of things are in there, and you just have to know kind of how to look for them, right? So you might see things like, well, number 19, for instance, is accented forte and then piano slurred. So that's already kind of getting us one and then the other and then the other and then the other back and forth. You might also notice that a lot of them go louder as they go lower and softer as you go up. That's also a unique way of unifying those. But some of them go the opposite direction, right? Some of them, so for instance, number 14 does that. Number 13 also does that. It goes louder and lower every time. But number 26 is one of my favorites. Number 26 goes up and gets louder and then does an octave slur. Well, what's that about, right? Well, it's what we're talking about. It's unifying the loud and the soft because they aren't different, but some people are better at setting up one instead of the other. This is helping to get them to work together. And I'll give you the quick backstory. I was playing soft all week. I thought I was going to do a soft week and learn a lot about the trumpet. And what I found was that I couldn't play as high. I thought that's weird because I should be able to. It shouldn't be affected very much. And that I was getting a lot of double buzz, kind of that sort of junky, crappy tone that's like as you do the slur, you get this kind of sound. And I've had a lot of students over the years who get that when they're first learning to do really fast flexibility or really medium-high flexibility. And I was always just keep doing it and it'll go away. And it does. But, I didn't really know why. And now I do, because that means that embouchure is trying to roll in, and there's not enough strength for it to stay stably in the same place. So it's trying to do something to kind of stay in the same place, and it ends up in the wrong place, and then we get a weird sound that we don't like. But the answer is still the same. You got to do it more and insist that doesn't happen as often. And when you play louder, it blows the lips open, and that doesn't happen as much, but that'll make you more tired sooner. but if you do that long enough, you build up an endurance, and then you can just kind of stay in the same place. So the Schlossberg book is a good place for this because it does a lot of different types of versions of exercises that will teach you this just by virtue of trying to sound good on them, right? You don't have to know what you're doing, at least not right away. But you have to follow the directions. So let's do, actually, before we do that, we're going to do some special studies like stuff. I don't have John's book here, but the one that I really like is you play with sort of a subtone, like softer than you should play, where your tone isn't any good. Well, he doesn't say specifically make it bad, right? But in other words, you're not using hardly any air, and you're just kind of getting the coordination of things. So we're just going to do that a little bit. And it starts with these that go like this. Turn this back down. I let it go at the end. Oops. So yeah, I didn't get a good one. I let it go at the end. I let my jaw drop and I lost the note. But this is the point, right? This is a great way to unify these things. Let's try another one. He just kind of expands in his book. And I highly recommend, I'm not going to give you the answers to his book. Go buy it. Because, well, first of all, because John is still teaching, and you know, you can go study with him. If you like his book, go take a lesson. But also just because, you know, it's the right thing to do. That was better. It's important not to drop your jaw open as you get louder, which is very tempting to do because it helps keep the air the same speed. But if you do that, you change your anchor points, right? You change the bottom lip. You pull your teeth off of the bottom of the rim, and then it doesn't respond the same way when you go back to quiet, right? And this is something that John Hagstrom used to talk about, keeping your anchor points solid so that you had color control at any volume. And I was always like, sure, you know, that makes sense. But you know, not everybody does that, and not everybody needs that either. But I always thought, like, I wish I really physically understood what he was talking about, because I always change my jaw position even though I don't want to. But this is what he meant. This is a different approach to that. So let's do one more. I'll leave this on, see if I can not max out my microphones, even though they're all super high volume, right? Because I'm supposed to be playing soft. Excuse me. Whew. So I realize it sounds like, why would I want to, but why would I want to do this exercise? Well, trust me, try it out. And this is just the first one. This is the beginning of the book, or this is the beginning of the section, I should say. Sorry. Maybe I can find it really quickly, because I'd love to give it a better plug. John Daniel Special Studies is what you want. And I don't want to be misusing it either, because that's not responsible behavior, but it should be like right on the, that's with Rudd's, well, there it is. Okay. So I'll tell you where to find this in between things. And it's already getting into something that I talked about at the beginning of the stream an hour ago now, which was that we want to be playing more of the fundamentals by ear. I didn't look at a book, right? I have my Schlossberg book, which we'll use next, out in front of me, but so let me find this section of the special studies. Here it is, efficiency studies. Who would have thunk, right? And you can see it's basically what I just did. Oops, I'm not getting it in the screen very well. Da 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 da. Oops. Well, this one's da 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 da. Which I sort of skipped to the second one, I guess. Sorry, John, if you're watching. But that's why you buy the books, so you don't screw it up like me. But he has a lot of words here. Again, I don't want to take away the value of the book by giving you all the answers. But it really taught me something that I never would have done that in a million years. I would have said, well, what's the point? You don't sound good. Why would I want to not sound good and suck at further response? Well, that's why, because when you figure out how to do the whisper tone version of flexibility, then you kind of learn like how to keep things better, and it just goes to show you might. I mean, I've known John a long time, and I've watched his masterclass at least 3 times, 4 times, something like that. And he talks about this stuff, and the first 2 times I remember going, it's like a totally different way to play. He sounds great, but I'm just not, I don't get it. I don't play like that. I guess I'm not going to understand. And then the third time, I don't know if there was a fourth, but the third time I remember very distinctly going, well, I don't do that, and I need that. And that's when I started to really think about it. And then it just so happened he gave me his book that same summer. And so I started looking through it, and lo and behold, learned a lot of stuff. So anyway, all right, let's play some Schlossberg now. And then we'll get into some scalar exercises that I've been working on. And it's nothing special, but maybe we'll get into something more special. So let's see. First of all, let's do some of the ones we've already talked about. And yeah, okay, so here's a couple of simple ones. Having a lot of trouble playing below C in the staff. Yes, indeed. Well, as a matter of fact, we're going to start on Schlossberg number 9. So if you're following along at home, it would be a great one to start on, because look, here, so we could even, actually, we'll goose it a little bit. We'll cheat a little bit. We're going to play 13 first instead. It's on the next page. It's opposite that same page on my book. So number 13. And here we go. We get to add air as we go down and open up. We get to do all the things that feel good, all right? So now most of the Schlossberg book also says slowly. It says slowly a lot of times. And it also usually says soft somewhere. In this case, we get to start mezzo forte even. So we're mezzo forte and crescendo as we go down. We're just going to do this top line, and then we're going to flip the page back, and we're going to do number 9. Okay? So here we go. And I'll talk in between, but for now, I will mute. Okay, so now you can think about this. Michael said he's having a lot of trouble playing below C in the staff, and that is it's one of my biggest issues too. But if you think about C in the staff and below as a version of the partial above it but bent down, so in other words, a G, right? If I think about, I can play that all day, right? G in the staff is easy for me. Some other notes that other people find easy are not easy for me, like low C. But G in the staff is easy. So if I'm going to do that, let me put these in different places here so that I don't blow out the microphones. I can think about it as and you'll notice you're using a lot more of your sort of upper corners. And we don't talk about upper corners, right? But those are the corners that unify that low range to that middle range. And we're talking about soft to loud, but low to middle to high is also a concern we have all the time, right? And these are great summer projects because it's like, when do you have time? Like, you're in the middle of a rehearsal, let's say, and somebody's saying, okay, trumpets, you're coming, it's a little bit late coming into that low C, and you go, oh, okay, great. Well, right now. You just gotta, just just tongue it out and get it happening. But wouldn't it be nice if somebody said, hey, I know you're having trouble with your low register and it's not responding as fast as you want. Even though you sound really good all the time, I can hear there's a little bit of a struggle. Why don't you take, I don't know, 2 months and don't worry about anything but that and try to just get that to be really smooth and easy? Well, hey, that's what the summer is, right? But you have to have a list of things. So if we haven't already made one, Michael, I'm sure will make one for us, and I'll give you guys mine. But tell me in the chat, tell us all in the chat. Let's make a big list. What do we want to work on? What kinds of things do we finally have time for now that we're out of school and into the summertime? And we're still kind of in that COVID world where there are not as many gigs coming up. I have 3 gigs in the early part of the summer, and then nothing. And I'm not going to book anything either. I don't want to. I'm even those are one of them is the Brandenburg that we've been prepping for, and the other 2 are outdoor gigs that are honestly a little far away for me to feel super comfortable. But I'm just not going to see anybody except at those gigs outdoors, and that should be okay. But yeah, I mean, use this time. If you usually are playing gigs all summer, think about that and maybe really get a good routine happening. So, all right, so we've played 13, all right, and let's just play the first one again. Just get that set up. And then we're going to go over to 9. Now 9's not quite the same. 12 is the opposite. If you wanted to do 12 first, it goes up and softer, same intervals. But 9, we're going to go down and softer. Now we really have to hold because we're losing air. We have to sculpt things. This is that if I drop my jaw to get it, I lose it, right? So I have to sculpt it all the way down. And you might even put a little gliss in there with just a lip gliss, right? Lip it down a little if that helps you. All right, let's try it out. Put this on. So this will be 1/8 notes for us, right? I'm not ready for the metronome. Sorry, I'm not ready for the metronome. I got to do it way. This is one of the, you can go too deep in the paint, so to speak, right? That was too fast for me. I need to go slower, and I need to almost take that middle note at a time and just wait until I feel like I know where it's going to go. So that was my fault. We'll do it again from the top. So I got to figure it out, right? I'm not used to the mute, sorry. I've got to figure it out. I'm not just going to play the exercise over and over again. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to work out, like, what do I need to do? Can I do the slur soft? Yes. Okay, great. Well, why can't I do it while I go softer, right? From louder to softer. Why can't I do that? I don't know. I don't need to philosophically understand the answer. I need to put myself in the weeds, right? I'm mixing my metaphors now, but in the paint, in the weeds, whatever it is, I need to get experience doing the thing, and then try to figure out when it's successful what I did. And even then, I don't even need to know that. I just need to do it again and again until it is successful most of the time, and then I can turn on my brain and try to figure it out. So that's all we're going to do. We're going to do little excerpts, parts of the exercise, number 9. And this is my favorite part of the Schlossberg book, because the Schlossberg book is, if you go too fast through it and you just do it, it's really easy. But you don't learn very much, right? It just kind of warms you up and you feel, oh, okay, great. But if you really, really pay attention to every single little thing, you learn a lot. You sound terrible doing it a lot of the time, but you learn to play trumpet better. That's what I like about this book. So that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, so I figured out there's a tongue position motion that I can do instead of my jaw. And if I don't move my jaw, I don't get that bobble, rah, which you can see. If you're watching really closely, I don't know how closely I want you to watch, but if you're watching really closely, you can see when I move my jaw and when I don't. It's when I don't move my jaw that I get it to work well, or it just doesn't quite make it, so it gets kind of like in between the slots. But that's what I have to work out. I have to get the coordination of that so I know exactly where to move my tongue position and how, right? So we'll keep going and do it. Aha, so we've got the tongue position motion that I'm mostly capable of doing, but doesn't always work. That time, I don't know if you heard, I really opened up the tone on the E flat. I moved my tongue lower, so I already had slightly slower, slightly bigger air, and then that was easier to move down to the low A flat. We're going to try that again on low G. Yeah, so that's kind of working now, right? So we've worked out some stuff. I keep trying to put this back there. I'll put it here. We've worked out some stuff. Now, I'm on a video, so I can watch this back later and explain to myself what I just did. But I would write it down if I were alone, and I probably still will after the stream is over. I mean, essentially, we figured out two things, right? One, we figured out that if we move our jaw, then we tend to lose the note. Okay, so I'm going to try not to do that. But it's really hard not to do something, right? My example that I give my students is like, don't sit down. So then, they're usually sitting when I tell them that. So I say, don't sit down. So they stand up. And I said, well, but I didn't say to stand up, did I? I just said, don't sit down. And it's you can't not do something. That's not how the world works, right? But you can do something that makes something else impossible. Like you can stand up so that you're not seated anymore, right? Or you can sit down so that you're not standing. And so that when we find things that are in opposition, we can use them, and I can actively do something. So what am I actively doing? I'm actively moving my tongue position more open in the back and middle, so that my jaw doesn't have to do that passively for me, right? So in other words, I'm actively using the tongue instead of the jaw, and that seems to work. But it doesn't always work every time. And what made it work better was that I opened up the overall tongue position on the first note. Now, will that work on every pair of notes? I don't know. That's what there's a whole Schlossberg book right here. I'll find out if I keep going. But just for the purposes of our studies here, right, we said we would do a couple of things. We would establish a nice soft response. Then we would try to marry that with loud long tones. And now we've put those things together a little bit so that there's sort of a sliding scale. They're starting to get merged, right? Where I'm not thinking about this is my loud set and this is my soft set. I've never tried to do that, right? I've tried to get them put together. And the Schlossberg book is a great place to do that. Like I said before, the special studies also seems to do that really well for me. And we could go on and on. I mean, we'll do one more of these and I'll show you what I mean. Number 26, right? And you'll see there's a lot of them that obey these rules of higher and softer and lower and louder. That teaches you tongue position, right? So that's, I'll do a little bit of these. This is 21, slow it says. Right? I probably blew out the microphone. Sorry. I forget to push mute, but it's higher and softer, and you really have to just keep the air really smooth, and you can try to use your lips for a second, but it'll immediately punish you. It's just all about the tongue position, right? I'll do one more with it muted. Right? You can sort of, if you do these really smoothly, you can feel, and you don't have to know how they work. You just have to try to make them smooth, go slow like it says, and do the dynamics like it says. Just follow directions. Now, number 26, this one teaches us holding. So we talked about tongue position. That's one part of it. The other part is holding, right? And we have an analog from how we started. We started with response, which was kind of about lips, but the tongue position has a lot to do with your response too, especially if you use either tongue-controlled embouchure or anchor tongue position. It's a lot to do with your response. So we started with that, and then we played loudly, which we said that means that we have to be muscular. We have to hold a little bit. Number 26 merges those two together, so it lets you build up to mezzo forte, and then you have to do an octave slur. And it's so easy to lose that octave, either because you moved too much or too little, or you didn't move the right things. But again, you can shut your brain off and just go for quality, right? You just have to say, I want this to sound good, and I know what that sounds like. And I'm not really reading notes on the page. I'm just following directions. It's a good way to get into that habit too. So here we go. This is number 26, a little bit. So you can kind of see why this might work. And you can keep going up. It goes all the way up to high C, but you don't have to stop there or even start on C, right? These are exercises that he wrote out for people to do during the week between lessons, right? But there's no reason we can't extend them to the places that we're having trouble, or the places that we're not having trouble because we're having trouble working on it, right? So there's two ways to go about it. If there's an exercise you feel like you can do, but there's an area that you're not feeling good about, then you can move that exercise into that area. But on the other hand, if there's a whole area of your playing that you're struggling with, whether it's soft playing or a certain register or whatever it may be, then instead of putting more exercises in an area that you can't play in very well, that's not going to help, right? Play the exercises that you think are helping you with whatever that aspect is in an area that you do have more success. So for instance, if you're working on high range and you're struggling with it, which lots of people do, you should play in the high range every day, at least a little bit. But if you just bang your head against the wall in the high register, it's really hard to get better. So instead, go just adjacent to that, right? Just a little bit below. Almost everybody can play top of the staff lip slurs, all right? If you can make those really easy, then the octaves get a little bit easier. And then when those are easy, well then, an octave above those top of the staff notes, well now you're in the high register. So think about, if you're working on something and it's not working for you, then move it around or maybe change the exercise. So anyway, all right. So I said that we would get into playing scales, and I, again, am a little bit unprepared. I thought I would find in this room my minor modes sheet, but we don't need to do that right now. I could take a break for 5 minutes and go find it, or even if I don't, we could just try to do it by, God forbid we try to do it by ear. But what I've been trying to do is, so we talk about scales a lot, right? We usually play our scales. Let's say we're going to play A major, all right? Well, we got to play an A first. There we go. So there's a lot that could go into that. Sorry, I keep forgetting to mute. There's a lot that could go into that, right? For one is the fingerings, right? Those fingerings have to be really solid. But also the fingerings should include C sharp, pulling out a little bit for C sharp, and pulling out a little bit for A and E, right? Let's see if there's anything else. And D, right? So... right? Just a little bit goes a long way, and you have to place it by ear, and you have to do it on automatic pilot. It has to absolutely instantly happen as soon as 1, 2, and 3 goes down. My ring finger and my thumb shoot out a little bit, just to the right spot, right? And you can practice that. A tuner, and just get it in your ear, look away from the tuner and see if you're still on it. Don't try to lip it around too much, just get used to it, right? But anyway, that's part of the scale too. But then once I can play it up and down, right? Well, we've also talked about embouchure. A lot of people will breathe in the middle so that they have 2 different embouchures, one for high and one for low. Again, I keep forgetting to mute, I'm so sorry. I'll just put this down for now. Then I won't have to think about it. Well, that's another part of your scales that you have to learn, is how to not break in the middle. It's fine. I mean, your scales if you can do the fingerings, we say, but how useful is a scale if you have to break in the middle of it every time you play it? I mean, that's not how music works, right? So the breaks are where the phrases are, not where you need them to be for your register. So that's another part of scales that you might think about. I like to start people off almost instantly doing scales not just up and down. So they need to learn up and down first, but as soon as you know it up and down, I say, okay, now do it in thirds, right? Just instantly you got to have that. And now you're starting to play by ear. I'm not using a scale sheet. I still have Schlossberg on my stand here. Oops, the cover came off. I still have Schlossberg on my stand here, right? I'll even put it down. So now I just have Conconi and Schlossberg closed. So no sheet music of any kind in front of me. Oh, there's some interesting stuff on the back of this Schlossberg book. Dad, if you're still here, we got to look for the Julien Poré 6 esquisses. Esquisses, yeah. Esquuisses. Julien Poré, Porret, for trumpet and B flat and piano. And there's also a for trombone and piano. And this particular book is old enough that this might already be PD. It's not that old though. I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff in here. Oh, there's an interesting Schumann for trombones or bassoons or cellos. You should always look at the back of your books. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So okay, so we've got in thirds. We could do fourths, right? I don't know if I'm ready to do this, but this is what we want to figure out by ear, right? I don't want to do it. I don't want to get my scale sheet out and write it out if I don't have to. I need to learn it just instantly by ear. Trumpet playing, so I should really do it again. Sorry, that wasn't my best trumpet playing, so I really should do it again and make sure it is. So that's what we're going to do. Fifths as well, but you know, fifths are I could do fifths as well, but they're a little bit more tricky to, you know, I can't go down a fifth from A and still play 2 octaves anymore. I could go up a fourth instead, but I just did that. So once you get to fourths, it's not that you shouldn't try the other ones, but you know, maybe every other week or something you switch to the fifth version of it, and so you know that might be. Oh. Yeah, something like that. And so, I want to figure that out by ear because I know what a fifth sounds like and I know A major. But okay, we can do one better than that. I mean, one more step further than that. Just with A major, right? What if I play all the diatonic triads of A major, also 2 octaves, right? Let's try that. And if it gets too high for you, which mine almost is. We'll still go for it, but you can just do one octave or 1.5 octaves. That's fine. So there we go. Now those are just the diatonic triads, but I could do a little bit better than that. I could do the diatonic 7 chords, right? So in other words, if all this is totally, if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know what he's talking about, you can hear, right? These are the notes that are a third apart, and there's two, you know. Right? That's the one triad. So now I'm just going to go one more note. I'm going to go to the one more third up in the key. So basically a third is you skip a note and then you go to the next one. Skip a note and go to the next one. And then is where we started, right? So I did that one right. This one I always want to do. This one's tricky. I haven't been muted, sorry. This one I always want to do as another version of the dominant, the 5 chord, right? But that's not right. So you go. Now, that was a struggle for me because I've never done it with A major before. But if I do it every day, I'm going to get pretty quick at it. And I can start on a key that I know really well, like C major, let's say, right? Still not easy, but I'm learning the sounds of those diatonic 7 chords, and then I just play the sounds starting on in a different key, right? That's what I'm trying to get at. Is I don't want to learn the fingerings to anything. I want to learn the sounds to a few things, and then I want to be able to play them with all the different fingering combinations possible. Does that make sense? I hope that it makes sense. Now, you might say, well, Gabriel, that's nice to say, but I need to learn the fingerings. How am I supposed to do it if I don't know the fingerings? And you're right. That's why you start with the up and down scales, right? You just up and down the scale until your fingers feel normal. But if you look at the sheet music every time you play the scale, especially if you're a high schooler right now in band and maybe your band warm-up is to play through every major scale. Okay, well, right. Well, if you do that every day, you don't need to look at the music, right? You've done it at this point. Well, who knows what this year has looked like for you, but if it was a normal year, just this semester, you've probably done it over 100 times. So stop looking at it, right? Don't think about it that way. Just look at the first note and say, all right, this one, right? That's an E for me. And so now I'm just going to go let's say it's major scales, right? Da, 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 all right, let's see if we get it. Yeah, fine. So that's kind of, I want to do that, but I want to do that in many keys so that I feel really confident playing in all of those keys. And then if I'm a little bit shaky on, let's say there's a rhythm or something that I'm worried about, well, if I'm okay with the key and I play by ear really well, then I'm really just focused on hearing the sound of the rhythm. Then I'm not worried about the sound of the notes, the intervals, right? So now those are not the only things you could practice, right? You could practice a lot of different things. For instance, let's think about it. I've never done this before, but we're going to try something totally new. So I'm going to play in the key of A, since that's what we've established, right? I'm going to play all the fourths diatonically, right? Because if we do fourths, we should get around to all the notes eventually, I think. Circle of fifths and circle of fourths, that's why they work, right? So, because they don't map back onto the first note until you've gone through all of them. But that may not be true in a 8-note or a 7-note scale. I'm not sure. So let's try it. We're going to start on A, right? And we'll go up to D, right? And then we're going to go up to G sharp, which I know it's not a perfect fourth, but remember it's diatonic fourths, right? So up to G sharp, and then think about up to C sharp, right? And so on. So let's see if we can do it and keep track of A major the whole way and not just go to perfect fourths. Well, we didn't get all the notes, did we? Yeah, it does map back to itself too quick. No, maybe we did. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's the same number of events as the major scale. So it makes sense that it would map back to itself that many times. So now, do I need to do that ever? No, probably not all of it, but do I need to be able to do it because fourths might happen diatonically in a piece? Yes, absolutely. And I also need to do this with the abstract things too. So let's do some of that. This is something I used to be very good at and I haven't practiced in a while, but we're going to just do a cycle in the same way that we just did. We're going to do perfect fourths now. And perfect fourths won't map back to the beginning until you've gone through all 12 tones. And if we do it in a special pattern, we can actually sort of stack it against itself over and over again until we manage to, so we're not running through an octave, because fourths, you get past an octave in 2 intervals, right? A fourth plus a fourth is more than an octave, right? No, that's not right. It's almost more than an octave. So the third note, in other words, that I play after the first is going to be a minor third and an octave higher. I'm not going to be able to play all the fourths, right? So instead, we're going to do up 3 and then jump down, and then up 1 and then jump down and then up 2 more, right? So it'll be in this pattern. Right, and let me mute it and we'll do it both directions. So we're going to start on C. No, we'll start on low G, and then we'll start on high G, and we'll work it both directions, okay? So as you can see, I'm much better at it going down, but also I cheated because I went up first, right? And then I had all the notes under my fingers. I just did them in reverse. And the part that I had the most trouble with was the beginning of the first one and the end of the second one. So that means I don't know my super low register fourths very well. So I need to work on it, right? Let's do it. Not easy, right? And it's also trumpet playing wise not that easy. We started off with, we tried to fix that, but you could get really, at this point, I at least could get really obsessed with, am I doing what I set out to do at the beginning of the routine, right? But our focus has shifted somewhat. Before we were worried about embouchure and air and efficiency and merging all of that and making sure we play really well. And we got somewhere with that. We got better. We figured some stuff out. Remember, we talked about the tongue position moving instead of the jaw. I don't even think I finished that. Well, yeah, we did. We opened up a little bit on the higher notes, so we didn't have quite so small of a position of our tongue, and that helped us keep things working in the lower register. And so those are both things that I could try and go back and fix that, right? With those same principles, but my focus can't be on two things at once. So I'm worried about patterns now with my ear, with my fingers, right? I want to be able to instantly recognize those patterns and play them. So I can't be thinking about my tongue position or my jaw moving or whatever. I'm noticing that I'm not getting the notes just like I wasn't getting the notes before, but I gotta be focused about my practice. So now I've worked out some of the notes. Maybe if I go a little slower and I focus back on those things before, I can get it all. So you can get obsessive about it, but if you made some progress today, write down how you did that, make the same progress again tomorrow and see if you can push it a little further, and then work on something else. It's a stream foul right there. And then work on something else, right? Don't obsess over the same thing for all day, because you'll want to quit after 3 or 4 days of that. But we made some good progress today on a couple of things. Now, what haven't we done? Well, we didn't work on high range, but we did play into the high range quite a bit, actually, right? We played up to double high A a bunch. And so I would call that success for today on high range. If I wanted to work it out, then I would do the normal high range exercise. I've done that many, many times on this channel, and and just in lessons and routines and all kinds of things. So if you don't know how to do that, go look at almost anything else I've ever put out, and it probably has that in there if it's a warm-up. But we haven't done some other things. There's not enough people in the chat for me to necessarily get a solid list of things that people want to work on, and I guess they would have written it by now if they wanted to, but I can tell you what I'm planning on working on over the summer. I would like to, well, what we've just talked about, soft and loud playing being united. Michael said articulation and digging into some Clark and Arbin type things. You can see now, right, the Arbin's book is kind of like what I've been talking about, where it's not just up and down scale patterns and arpeggios, it's different things than that, right? Just slightly like more useful alterations. So for instance, well, here's Clark's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. How about? All right. Let's see. I got to choose a good key for all of those. I'll do it in F, I guess. Sort of scalar things. Sorry, I'm doing this again. Had to go faster because I was running out of air. And then let's see. Something like that. Right, so, and I think there might be a repeat on that one too, if I'm honest. But that's trill tone. You got trill tones right there. I thought I invented trill tones 10 years ago. Turns out they were Clark number 4 all along, if you go a little faster. And then finally, number 5. I don't know if I'll get this one, but... That can't be right. Let's check the Clark book for that one. I got it all twisted up with some other exercise, and now I can't remember it. I started it off pretty good though. That was almost a clean sweep of the Clark book from memory. Okay, here we go. 5th study, finally. Let's find it in F. Of course, it's one more page that I can't get one of, but this will be a good way to quit. And there's more details here. Oh no, I was right. Oh my gosh. Well, who knew? Let's do a different one then. Let's do a bad one. Let's do B major, number 92. So now I just violated my own rule because I read that from the book. So let's try it again, but I'm going to close the book. So here I go, closing the book, putting it aside. Promise. And you'll know because I'm about to screw it up real bad. But I'm gonna figure it out by ear, and we're not gonna do the repeat just to save me. Actually, I would argue that that was better than the first time. And of course, we cheated because we played it once from the music, but that second time I was really focused on my air and my sound, and I didn't worry too much about the fingerings because I knew I couldn't really check, so I just had to trust. And I think I played it better. I missed a G sharp in the first one that I read with my eyes, but the second time I didn't. So again, we cheated, but this is what I'm talking about. So this is what I wanted to do today on stream. Just play some things by ear. And I invented everything except for the Clark book and, the things that I talked about, the special studies, right? I didn't invent that stuff. But any of the scalar exercises, I didn't invent scales. Nobody invented scale. I mean, I guess the Greeks, somebody invented them, but I'm coming up with the exercises off the top of my head based on what I think I'm capable of, right? And you can do the same thing. If you're trying to get better at the trumpet physically, then you want to address that at some point, but you've also got to put it into action. You can't just play long tones all day, even though long tones all day is a great idea. At some point you have to play something else. And if that's just a little bit more lip slurs, or if it's scales or whatever it is, make sure you do it by ear and figure it out by result, right? And then if you want to go back and think your way through it, like, what did I do? That can be really helpful for tomorrow. Like I said, I'm going to write down what I did to make my low range better. And then I can start there tomorrow. And I don't need to do this whole exercise every day for the rest of my life. At first, I need to do it maybe every day for a while until it just clicks, until it's the way that I always play is the way that I would normally have had to build it over the course of an hour. Well, at that point, I'm ready for a new routine, and maybe with some of the same elements, but I can go faster through that, and so I need to redevelop it, right? So that's something else to think about. If you take your whole summer and you write down all the things you want to work on all summer, right? Here's a big long list of all the stuff I want to improve. Okay, then start now with a routine that addresses all of those things at some level. Maybe not every day. If it's a long, long list, you can't do everything every day, but you can at least make your routine work out over 3 days or maybe 5 days where you address everything enough to improve on it a little bit, and then you get back to it before you've forgotten what you did last time, right? And you might even have like something a little more complicated, like instead of just always Mondays I do this, maybe Monday I do it and Tuesday I do a little bit of it, and Wednesday I just try to see if it holds up for 30 seconds, and then I hit it again really, really hard on Friday. And so you taper off or something, or maybe you increase. I don't know, right? But figure that part out for yourself. And then by the end of the summer, you should be able to say, okay, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, I'm good at this other thing, right? These things I can do right away, so I don't need to build them every day. I need to check on them every week, maybe. So what does your routine for the fall semester in school look like? What do you do every morning before you go to school, or when you get to school if you're in college, right? What does it look like, and what things did you build over the summer so that you don't have to build them from scratch every time? You already kind of know them, right? That's what you want to think about now, so that you can build that all the way till the fall, and then you just start off better, in a better position, right? You should think about all the other stuff that you. I was just getting ready to quit. Sorry, Dad. But you should think about all the other stuff that you want to improve on. like we said, well, obviously the big ones are the 3 T's, I call them, right? Time, good one. You can work on that without the trumpet. Tone, that one you can make sure you listen a lot, but you can work on getting your best sound, right? And intonation, right? You can work with a tuner and a metronome for sort of combinations of those things. But we've also got flexibility and high range and transposition and articulation, single tonguing, double tonguing, triple tonguing, doing that on one note, doing all those on multiple changing notes, right? Doing those with slurs in between. We've got the high register, everybody's afraid of, and the low register, which me and Michael are afraid of, right? And all kinds of things. So, I mean, the list can go on, and it should forever. But make your own list for now of the things that you'd like to accomplish over the summer. Make a routine that helps you address them as habits that you want to form and build, that you find out each day, and then you build from there. And then when you hit the ground running in the fall, you'll feel like you're built like a Mack truck or whatever they say these days, because you spent all that time, and like I said, you're hedgehogging this whole summer. You feel like, well, I'm just getting the same stuff done every day. That's not really true. If you built that routine right, you're actually getting better every day. You just don't notice. And then you get that audition repertoire in the fall or whatever it is, or you start working on a new piece in school or whatever, and you're like, wow, this is really easy for me. I don't know why. This kind of stuff used to be hard. Well, that's why. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming and for listening to me hack through Schlossberg's. I promise it'll always sound terrible, but we'll always learn something, because that's just how the Schlossberg book works. And yeah, I look forward to next time. We're going to be working up Brandenburg over the rest of the month until the 26th. But we're also working on our summer fundamentals, and we want to get back to those and make sure that we're not just kind of pacing for a piece, but we're thinking larger than that. And if we do that, we get both. If we just do one, we only get one, and maybe not even. So anyway, thanks again. I'll see you at the same time next week, I think. I don't think I have any conflicts with that. Today was graduation for us, so you'd think that school's done, but not for teachers. And yeah, I'll for sure I'll see you next week at from 3 to 5 on Friday. All right, take it easy.